Lena Washington stood before her bedroom mirror, smoothing the folds of her emerald green dress. The soft fabric hugged her curves, its vibrant hue complementing the warm undertones of her deep brown skin. At 32, she had spent the last decade pouring her heart into her kindergarten classroom at Lincoln Elementary in Chicago's South Side, where her infectious laugh and patient demeanor made her a favorite among students and parents alike. Tonight, however, her reflection betrayed a flicker of unease. Dating had never been her priority, and the idea of a blind date stirred a knot of apprehension in her stomach. "Stop fussing, Lena. You look stunning," came a voice from the doorway. Tara Brooks, Lena's best friend since their college days at Howard University, leaned against the frame, her curly auburn hair bouncing as she grinned. Tara, a graphic designer with a knack for meddling in Lena's love life, had spent weeks orchestrating this evening. "James Reed is perfect for you. Kind, stable, and works in tech. You can't keep hiding behind lesson plans forever." Lena sighed, tucking a loose curl behind her ear. Her hair, a cascade of tight spirals, framed her face, catching the soft glow of the bedside lamp. "I'm not hiding, Tara. I'm just busy. Those kids need me. You know how it is." Her voice softened, tinged with the weight of responsibility. Teaching wasn't just a job. It was her calling, rooted in the values instilled by her parents, who ran a small bookstore in Bronzeville. The Washington family bookstore, with its creaky shelves and community story hours, had been Lena's haven growing up. It taught her the power of stories and connection, and the sting of judgment from those who saw her family's modest life as less than. As a black woman, she'd learned early to guard her heart, wary of people who valued flash over substance. Tara stepped closer, her expression softening. "I get it, Lena. But you deserve more than grading papers and singing Wheels on the Bus. One date won't kill you. Besides, your mom called me yesterday, asking when you'll give her grandkids." Lena laughed, rolling her eyes. Oh, she did not. Her mother, Grace, was notorious for her gentle but persistent nudging about Lena's single status. Her father, Marcus, was quieter, content to tinker with the bookstore's ancient cash register. But even he'd hinted at wanting Lena to find someone who saw her for the brilliant woman she was. Their love, built on shared dreams and resilience against a world that often underestimated them, was the standard Lena held for her heart, a standard few men had met. "Fine," Lena said, grabbing her purse. "One date. But if this James guy starts talking about his crypto portfolio, I'm out." Tara clapped, triumphant, as Lena slipped on her heels and headed for the door. The early evening sun bathed Chicago in a golden glow as Lena arrived at La Vida Cafe, a cozy spot downtown known for its intimate ambiance and live jazz. The hostess, a young woman with a warm smile, greeted her. "Table for Reed?" Lena asked, her voice steadier than she felt. The hostess nodded, leading her through the bustling restaurant to a corner table where a man sat alone, sipping a red wine. Lena hesitated. The man looked up, his piercing green eyes meeting hers. He was undeniably handsome, white, with neatly styled dark blonde hair and a strong jaw softened by a faint smile. His tailored navy blazer and loosened tie suggested confidence, but his posture was almost approachable. "I think there's a mistake," Lena started, but the hostess was already gliding away. The man stood, his smile widening. "Are you waiting for someone?" His voice was smooth, with a hint of curiosity. "Yes, a blind date. James Reed. My friend Tara set it up," Lena explained, feeling a flush of awkwardness. The man's eyes flickered with something. Amusement, perhaps, before he glanced around the cafe. "I'm James," he said, extending his hand. "Please, sit." Lena shook his hand, noting its warmth against her skin. "I'm Lena. Lena Washington." She settled into the chair across from him, setting her purse beside her. The table, adorned with a single candle and a vase of daisies, felt intimate, almost too perfect for a first meeting. "Tara didn't tell me much about you. You're just in tech." He nodded, pouring her a glass of wine from the bottle on the table. "Tech, yeah. Consulting, mostly. Nothing too thrilling." His tone was casual, but his eyes held hers, as if searching for something. "What about you?" "I'm a kindergarten teacher," Lena replied, taking a sip. The wine was rich and far smoother than her usual grocery store finds. "Been at it for 8 years. The kids keep me grounded. Every day's a new adventure." His smile deepened, genuine interest sparking in his gaze. "That sounds rewarding. Teaching little ones, shaping their world. Not many people have that kind of patience." Lena relaxed, her nerves easing. "It's not always easy, but it's worth it." Like today, one of my students, Jamal, finally wrote his name without help. The way his face lit up. She trailed off, laughing. "Sorry, I get carried away." "Don't apologize," he said, leaning forward. "Tell me more." As they ordered, Lena chose a lemon herb chicken, and he chose steak. The conversation flowed effortlessly. Lena shared stories of her classroom, her love for teaching rooted in her parents' bookstore, where she'd read to neighborhood kids on weekends. She hinted at the challenges too: budget cuts, parents who judged her youth or her blackness, assuming she was less qualified. He listened intently, asking thoughtful questions, his attention unwavering. "So, how do you know Tara?" Lena asked, cutting into her chicken. He hesitated, just for a moment. "Mutual friends. We've crossed paths at events." His answer was vague, but Lena let it slide, caught up in the warmth of his gaze. Unbeknownst to her, the man across the table was not James Reed, but Ethan Caldwell, Billionaire CEO of Caldwell Enterprises. Ethan, a white American heir to a tech empire, had grown weary of the sycophants and gold diggers who saw only his wealth. When Lena mistook him for her date, something in her unguarded smile, her authenticity, made him play along. For the first time in years, he felt seen, not as a tycoon, but as a man. Yet, as their laughter filled the air, a quiet guilt gnawed at him. He knew he should tell her the truth, but the fear of losing this rare connection kept him silent. As the meal ended, Lena felt a flutter of hope. This wasn't what she'd expected from a blind date. "You're not what I pictured," she admitted, smiling. "Tara said you were stable, but you're different in a good way." Ethan's smile faltered, his hand pausing on his wineglass. "What did you picture?" "Someone less alive," she teased. "You listen." He chuckled, but his eyes held a shadow of conflict. "I'm glad I surprised you, Lena." As they stood to leave, the jazz band struck up a soulful tune, and Ethan offered his hand. "One dance before we go?" Lena hesitated, then took it, letting him lead her to the small dance floor. Their steps were tentative initially, but as the music wrapped around them, she felt a spark, a promise of something more. Little did she know that this mistaken encounter was the start of a journey that would test her heart and change her life forever. The soft glow of candles flickered across the table at La Vita Cafe, casting warm shadows on Lena Washington's face as she laughed at a story Ethan Caldwell shared about a disastrous attempt to fix a printer at his office. His animated gestures and self-deprecating grin made it easy to forget the nervous knot that had gripped her earlier. The jazz band's soulful melody wove through the air, blending with the clink of glasses and murmured conversations, creating an intimate cocoon around their corner table. Lena sipped her wine, savoring its velvety richness, and relaxed into the moment. This blind date, which she dreaded, was unfolding like a scene from a dream. "So, you're telling me you ended up covered in toner and your boss still made you give the presentation?" Lena asked, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Still posing as James Reed, Ethan leaned back in his chair, his green eyes crinkling at the corners. Oh, it was worse. The client thought it was performance art and clapped. "I wanted to disappear." His laugh was warm, but a flicker of hesitation crossed his face when Lena called him James earlier, a reminder of the lie he was letting her believe. He pushed the guilt aside, captivated by her unguarded joy. As CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, he'd navigated a world of calculated handshakes and shallow flattery for years. Lena's authenticity, her passion for her students, her quick wit, was a rare gift, one he wasn't ready to risk by revealing he wasn't her intended date. Lena tilted her head, studying him. "You don't strike me as the disappearing type. You seem, I don't know, it's steady, like you handle chaos well." He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Steady? That's a new one. Most people say I'm too intense." He paused, swirling his wineglass. "What makes you say that?" She shrugged, her curls bouncing slightly. "Just a feeling." "You listen, really listen. Most guys on first dates are halfway through their life story before I finish my appetizer." She gestured to her half-eaten lemon herb chicken. "You've barely talked about yourself." Ethan's smile tightened, a pang of guilt resurfacing. He wanted to tell her that he wasn't James Reed, a tech consultant, but Ethan Caldwell, a billionaire whose name graced skyscrapers. Yet, her words stopped him. She saw him, not the empire he'd inherited or the headlines that dogged him. "Maybe I like hearing about you more," he said softly, his gaze holding hers. "Your classroom sounds like a world I'd love to visit. Tell me about your favorite student." Lena's face lit up, and she launched into a story about a shy girl named Aisha who'd blossomed into a storyteller during circle time. As she spoke, Ethan leaned forward, genuinely absorbed. Her passion reminded him of his mother, a painter who'd filled their home with color before her death when he was 10. That loss, and his father's relentless push to mold him into a corporate heir, had left Ethan guarded, craving moments like this where he could be. Lena's voice, rich with warmth, was pulling down walls he hadn't realized he'd built. The waiter cleared their plates, and Ethan noticed the cafe staff's subtle deference. Quick refills, a manager checking in discreetly. Lena caught it too, her brow furrowing slightly. "They're attentive to you," she said, half teasing. "Do you come here a lot?" Ethan chuckled, deflecting. "Good service is hard to find. Maybe they like us." His casual tone masked the truth. The cafe's owner knew him as a VIP client. He steered the conversation back to her. "You mentioned your parents' bookstore. What's it like, growing up surrounded by books?" Lena's eyes softened. "It was magic. My dad read Langston Hughes to me while my mom organized poetry slams for the neighborhood. They built a community, not just a business. It's why I teach, to give kids that same sense of belonging." She paused, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "What about you? What's your family like?" Ethan's expression flickered, a shadow passing over his face. "Complicated," he said, his voice quieter. "My mom passed when I was young. My dad had big expectations, built a legacy he wanted me to carry. I'm still figuring out how to do that without losing myself." It was the most honest thing he'd said all night, and Lena's gentle nod told him she understood. "I'm sorry about your mom," she said softly. That's a lot to carry. But you seem like you're finding your way. He met her gaze, a warmth spreading through him. Tonight, I think I am. As dessert arrived, a shared tiramisu, they traded lighter stories, their laughter drawing smiles from nearby tables. Lena felt a flutter in her chest, a spark she hadn't expected. Ethan was different from the men she'd dated, attentive, curious, with a quiet strength that made her feel seen. Yet, something was guarded about him, a hesitation she couldn't quite place. Outside, the night air was cool, the city's hum softened by the glow of streetlights. Ethan suggested a walk through a nearby park, and Lena agreed, her heels clicking on the pavement, their hands brushed as they strolled, sending a jolt through her. Moonlight filtered through the trees, and they paused by a fountain, its gentle splash filling the silence. Lena, Ethan began, his voice low, I need to tell you something. His heart raced. This was the moment to confess. He wasn't James. He'd let her mistake him for her date because her smile had undone him. But his phone buzzed insistently in his pocket as he opened his mouth. He glanced at the screen, his jaw tightening. A text from his assistant, Nora. Emergency with the Tokyo merger. Board needs you now. I'm sorry, he said, his face apologetic. Work. I have to take this. Lena nodded, hiding her disappointment. At this hour? Tech never sleeps, he said with a wry smile, stepping away to answer. His posture shifted, relaxed charm replaced by sharp authority as he spoke in hushed, commanding tones. Lena couldn't hear the words, but the change intrigued her. Who was this man? When he returned, his expression was tense. I hate to cut this short, but I have to go. Can I call you? I'd love to see you again. Lena hesitated, then smiled. Sure. I had a great time, James. His smile faltered at the name, but he nodded. Tomorrow, then. He leaned in, his lips brushing her cheek in a fleeting warm kiss that sent a shiver down her spine. As he walked away, disappearing into a sleek black car that appeared almost instantly, Lena watched, a mix of hope and curiosity swirling within her. Not your average tech guy, she murmured to herself. Ethan stared out the window in the car, the city lights blurring past. Lena's laughter echoed in his mind, starkly contrasting with the boardroom crisis awaiting him. He hadn't meant to lie, but her genuine warmth had made him greedy for more time as a man, not a billionaire. He was caught in a deception he didn't know how to unravel. As his driver navigated toward Caldwell Enterprises, Ethan clutched his phone, Lena's number glowing on the screen. He had to see her again. But first, he had to decide how to tell her the truth without losing her. Lena Washington stepped out of her modest South Side apartment, her heart lighter than it had been in weeks. The memory of her first date with James Reed at La Vita Cafe lingered like a warm melody. His attentive gaze, the way he'd listened to her stories about her kindergarten classroom, the fleeting kiss on her cheek that had left her breathless. Tonight, their second date at Trattoria Bella, an upscale Italian bistro downtown, promised more of that unexpected spark. She adjusted her navy wrap dress, its simple elegance boosting her confidence, and checked her phone. A text from Ethan Caldwell, still posing as James, read, Can't wait to see you. 7 p.m. at Trattoria Bella. Lena smiled, ignoring the faint unease that had crept in since their first night. Something about his guarded answers, the way the cafe staff had hovered, nagged at her, but she pushed it aside. Maybe he was just nervous, like she was. At the restaurant, the hostess led her to a candlelit table where Ethan waited, his dark blonde hair catching the soft glow of the chandeliers. He stood as she approached, his green eyes brightening. "You look beautiful," he said, his voice warm but tinged with a tension she couldn't place. He wore dark jeans and a crisp blue button-down, less formal than their first date, but still impeccably tailored. "Thanks," Lena replied, blushing as she sat. "This place is fancy. I'm not used to this." The bistro buzzed with Chicago's elite, suits discussing deals, couples in designer attire. She felt a flicker of self-consciousness but brushed it off, focusing on Ethan's smile. "Too much?" he asked, his brow furrowing with genuine concern. "No, it's lovely," she assured him. "Just a step up from my usual pizza nights." They laughed, the ease of their first date returning. The conversation flowed as they ordered. Lena chose fettuccine alfredo, and Ethan a grilled salmon. Lena shared a story about a student who'd drawn her a picture of a super teacher, and Ethan chuckled, asking about her favorite lesson plans. She noticed he deflected questions about his work, sticking to vague mentions of consulting projects. Wanting to clear her doubts, she tried a different angle. "Tara mentioned, you're into tech, maybe at a startup?" She ventured, twirling her pasta. "She also said something about you loving sci-fi movies. Any truth to that?" Ethan froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. A flicker of panic crossed his face, quickly masked by a tight smile. "Tara's full of stories," he said, his tone careful. "Tech, but I'm more of a behind-the-scenes guy. As for sci-fi, I'm more into classics like The Godfather." He steered the topic back to her. "What about you? Any favorite movies?" Lena frowned, sensing his evasion, but let it go, not wanting to spoil the mood. They were mid-conversation about her love for the color purple when a well-dressed couple approached their table. The man, middle-aged with a booming voice, extended his hand to Ethan. "Ethan Caldwell, John Harper, Harper Investments. I've been trying to get a meeting with you for months." Lena's heart stuttered. "Ethan Caldwell?" She looked at Ethan, expecting him to correct the man, but his face paled, his jaw tightening. The woman beside Harper laughed, her diamond earrings glinting. "James?" "Oh, honey, everyone knows Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, one of Chicago's most prominent names." The words hit Lena like a punch. She stared at Ethan, her pulse racing. "James?" she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought your name was James Reed." Harper chuckled, oblivious to the tension. "Reed? No, this is Ethan Caldwell, the tech titan. Good to see you, man. My office will call yours." He clapped Ethan's shoulder and walked away with his wife, leaving a suffocating silence. Lena's hands trembled as she set down her fork. The restaurant's chatter faded, her world narrowing to the man across from her. "You're not James," she said, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "You're Ethan Caldwell, a billionaire." Ethan's eyes, usually so warm, were filled with regret. "Lena, I was going to tell you." "When?" She cut in, her voice rising. "After another date? Another lie?" The betrayal stung, sharp and raw. She'd opened up to him, shared pieces of her life, her students, her parents' bookstore, while he'd hidden who he was. Was this a game to you? Pretending to be some regular guy to see if I'd fall for it? "No, it wasn't like that," Ethan said, reaching for her hand. She pulled back, her chair scraping against the floor. "Please, let me explain." "What's there to explain?" Lena stood, grabbing her purse. Her throat tightened, tears threatening, but she refused to let them fall. "You let me believe you were my blind date. You sat there, night after night, knowing I thought you were someone else." "Why?" Ethan stood too, his voice low and urgent. "Because when you sat down at my table, You saw me. Not my name, not my company, just me. Do you know how rare that is? His eyes searched hers, pleading. I didn't want to lose that. Lena shook her head, her hurt drowning out his words. You didn't trust me enough to be honest. And now I'm the fool who fell for it. The other diner's glances burned into her, amplifying her humiliation. She'd let herself hope and believe in this connection, only to be played. Goodbye, Ethan. Or James. Whoever you are. She turned and walked out, her heels clicking on the polished floor. Each step, a battle to hold back tears. The cool night air hit her face as she stepped onto the sidewalk, the city's hums starkly contrasting the chaos in her heart. How could she have been so naive? A man like Ethan Caldwell, with his wealth and power, wouldn't be interested in a kindergarten teacher. It had all been a lie. Inside, Ethan sank back into his chair, the half-eaten meal mocking him. The weight of his deception pressed down, heavier than any boardroom crisis. He'd known he should have told her the truth that first night, when her smile had undone him, or in the park, when he'd almost confessed. But he'd been selfish, craving how she looked at him, like he was enough, just as he was. Now, he'd lost her trust, maybe forever. He signaled for the check, his mind racing. Lena's hurt expression, the tremble in her voice, haunted him. He couldn't let this be the end. Ignoring the waiter's overly attentive nod, he pulled out his phone and stared at her number as he paid. He had to make this right, but how? Telling her the truth now felt impossible, yet letting her go was unbearable. Ethan Caldwell, who commanded empires, felt utterly powerless for the first time in years. Back at her apartment, Lena kicked off her heels and sank onto her couch, the silence deafening. Her phone buzzed. Tara, probably checking on the date. But she ignored it. The memory of Ethan's green eyes, so warm and genuine, clashed with the reality of his lie. She opened her laptop, her fingers trembling as she typed Ethan Caldwell into the search bar. Headlines flooded the screen. Caldwell Enterprises leads tech innovation. Billionaire CEO's private life a mystery. Photos showed him in sleek suits, shaking hands with moguls, a world away from the man who danced with her to jazz. Lena closed the laptop, her chest tight. She'd let herself believe in him, but all she'd gotten was a broken trust. As she curled under a blanket, one thought echoed. She deserved better than a man hiding behind a mask. Lena Washington sat cross-legged on her worn but cozy couch, the dim light of her South Side apartment casting soft shadows across the room. The previous night's events at Trattoria Bella replayed in her mind like a broken record. Ethan Caldwell's pale face as his true identity was exposed, the sting of her own words as she called him out, the weight of humiliation as she stormed out. Her navy wrap dress, now draped over a chair, seemed to mock her, a reminder of the hope she'd carried into that date. She clutched a mug of chamomile tea, its warmth doing little to soothe the ache in her chest. How had she been so blind, mistaking a billionaire CEO for an ordinary tech consultant named James Reed? Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, Tara's name flashing on the screen. Lena ignored it, not ready to face her friend's inevitable questions. Instead, she dialed her mother, Grace, needing the anchor of her family's wisdom. The call connected, and Grace's voice, rich with the cadence of their Bronzeville community, filled the silence. Lena, baby, you okay? It's late for you to be calling. Lena exhaled, her voice shaky. Not really, Mama. I went on that blind date Tara set up, but he wasn't who he said he was. His name's Ethan Caldwell, not James Reed. He's some big-shot CEO who let me believe he was someone else. Her throat tightened. I feel so stupid. Grace's sigh was audible, laced with empathy. Oh, sweetheart, you're not stupid. You trusted someone, and he broke that trust. But let me tell you something. Our people have always faced folks who hide their true selves, whether for power or play. You remember what your grandma used to say? Truth finds its way, like water through stone. Don't let this man make you doubt your worth. Lena nodded, though her mother couldn't see. The Washington family bookstore, her parents' pride and joy, had been more than a shop. It was a haven where Black voices, from Zora Neale Hurston to local poets, were celebrated. Growing up, Lena had watched her parents navigate a world that often dismissed their dreams, blackness, and small business. They'd taught her to stand tall, value authenticity over flash, and guard her heart against those who saw her as less. Ethan's deception felt like a betrayal, not just of her trust, but of that legacy. I just thought he saw me, Mama. Not as a teacher or a whatever he thought I was, but as me. And maybe he did, Grace said gently. But if he lied, that's on him, not you. You're Lena Washington, the woman who makes kids believe they can be anything. Don't let him dim that light. The call ended, but Grace's words lingered, grounding Lena. She opened her laptop, unable to resist the pull of curiosity, and typed Ethan Caldwell into the search bar. Articles flooded the screen. Caldwell Enterprises pioneers, AI breakthroughs. Ethan Caldwell, Chicago's elusive billionaire. Photos showed him in sleek suits, commanding boardrooms, his green eyes serious and distant. One article speculated about his private life, calling him the untouchable CEO. Nothing resembled the warm, attentive man who'd laughed with her over tiramisu. She closed the laptop, her stomach churning. Had it all been a game to him? A billionaire amusing himself with a teacher who didn't know his world? A knock at the door startled her. Tara stood there, holding 2 coffee cups, her expression a mix of concern and determination. You didn't answer my texts, so I brought reinforcements, she said, stepping inside. Spill it. What happened with James? Lena took the coffee, the warmth grounding her as she recounted the night. Ethan's lie, the businessman's revelation, her walkout. Tara's eyes widened. Ethan Caldwell, the guy whose company's on every tech billboard in Chicago? Lena, that's wild. But why didn't he tell you? I don't know, Lena said, her voice tight. Maybe he thought it was funny, playing pretend with the kindergarten teacher. Like I'm some naive girl who'd fall for his charm. The words stung, echoing the societal judgments she'd faced, assumptions that she was less sophisticated and worthy because of her background. She'd worked hard to prove those stereotypes wrong, building a career that mattered. Ethan's deception reminded her how easily she could be underestimated. Tara frowned, setting her coffee down. I don't buy that. The way you described him, listening, asking about your kids, he didn't sound like he was playing. Maybe he liked that you didn't know who he was. People like him are being chased for their money or status. You saw him differently. Lena shook her head, her curls bouncing. If he liked me, he wouldn't have lied. I opened up to him, Tara. I told him about the bookstore, my students, and my dreams. And he couldn't even tell me his real name. Her voice cracked, betraying the hurt she'd tried to bury. Before Tara could respond, the doorbell rang. Lena opened it to find a delivery person holding a vibrant bouquet of orchids, her favorite flower, mentioned in passing during their first date. Her heart skipped, a mix of anger and longing. She took the bouquet, her fingers brushing the soft petals, and read the attached card. Lena, I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Please give me a chance to explain. Ethan. Tara peered over her shoulder, whistling. Well, damn. He's not giving up. You gonna hear him out? Lena set the flowers on the counter, their beauty clashing with her turmoil. I don't know, Tara. I want to believe he meant well, but what if this is more of his game? I can't afford to be the fool again. She thought of her parents, who'd faced skepticism and still built a legacy of love and community. She'd always prided herself on her strength, her ability to see through facades. Yet, Ethan's warm smile, the way he'd listened, felt real. Could she trust her instincts, or was she setting herself up for more pain? Tara squeezed her hand. You don't have to decide now, but don't let his mistake make you shut down. You're too good for that, Lena. She paused, smirking. And those orchids are gorgeous. At least he's got taste. Lena managed a small laugh, but her mind was a storm of doubt and hope. She glanced at the orchids, their delicate petals a quiet plea from Ethan. Part of her wanted to toss them out, to close the door on this chapter. But another part, the part that had felt a spark in his gaze, a connection in their dance, wondered if there was more to his story. She let the flowers sit for now, symbolizing the choice she wasn't ready to make. As she sipped her coffee, Lena knew one thing. Whatever came next, she'd face it with the resilience her family had taught her, ready to protect her heart, but open to the truth. The community center on Chicago's South Side buzzed with evening activity. Children's laughter from a dance class, the murmur of an adult literacy group, the clatter of chairs being stacked. Lena Washington sat at a small table in a fluorescent-lit classroom, guiding a middle-aged woman named Carla through a reading exercise. A lingering ache tempered her usual warmth. The sting of Ethan Caldwell's deception, still fresh 3 days after she'd stormed out of Trattoria Bella. The bouquet of orchids he'd sent sat on her kitchen counter, their vibrant petals a daily reminder of his plea for a chance to explain. Lena pushed the thought aside, focusing on Carla's progress, but her heart wasn't entirely in it. Great job, Carla, Lena said, offering a smile as the woman sounded out a sentence. You're getting stronger every week. Carla beamed, but before Lena could turn to the next page, she glanced up and froze. Ethan stood in the classroom doorway, his usual polished blazer replaced by a simple gray sweater and jeans. His green eyes, usually so confident, held a nervous vulnerability that made him look less like the billionaire CEO she'd read about, and more like the man she'd danced with at La Vita Cafe. Carla followed Lena's gaze. Friend of yours, Ms. Lena? Just someone I know, Lena replied, her voice tight. Let's finish this paragraph, then we'll take a break. She tried to focus, but Ethan's presence was a magnet, pulling at her resolve. After a few minutes, she excused herself, her arms crossed defensively as she approached him. What are you doing here, Ethan? He shifted, his hands in his pockets. I needed to see you, Lena. Can we talk? 5 minutes, please. His voice was quiet, almost pleading, starkly contrasting to the commanding tone she'd glimpsed when he'd taken that work call in the park. Lena glanced back at her students, then nodded reluctantly. There's a break room down the hall. 5 minutes. She led him to a small room with mismatched chairs and a coffee-stained counter, its starkness amplifying their tension. She leaned against the wall, keeping her distance. How did you even find me? Tara, Ethan admitted, wincing as Lena's eyes narrowed. Please, don't be mad at her. She only told me because she thinks you deserve to hear me out. Lena sighed, her fingers tightening around her arms. Fine, I'm listening. Ethan took a breath, his gaze steady but vulnerable. I owe you an apology, Lena. I should have told you who I was when you sat at my table. I knew you thought I was James Reed, and I let you believe it. That was wrong. He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture uncharacteristically uncertain. When you looked at me, you saw a person, not a name or a bank account. Do you know how rare that is for me? People have seen Caldwell first. My father's legacy, the company, and the headlines. You didn't. You just caught me. Lena's resolve wavered, his words stirring the memory of their first night. His genuine laughter, the way he'd hung on her stories about her students. But the hurt was still raw. So you lied because it was convenient? Because you liked how it felt? Her voice was sharp, masking the ache beneath. You don't get to play with people's trust like that, Ethan. I know, he said, taking a cautious step closer, stopping when she tensed. It wasn't about convenience. It was selfish, yes, but it was also fear. My mother died when I was a kid, and my father built an empire he expected me to inherit. I've spent years trying to be what he wanted, hiding who I am to fit that mold. With you, I didn't have to pretend to be the CEO. I could just be Ethan. His voice softened. I was going to tell you that night in the park, but work pulled me away, and I lost my nerve. Lena's eyes searched his, looking for a trace of the man who'd deceived her. Instead, she saw vulnerability, a man stripped of his corporate armor, standing before her with nothing but honesty. And what about now? She asked. Why should I believe you're not still hiding something? Ethan met her gaze, unflinching. Because I'm here. I'm asking for a chance to show you who I am. No lies, no masks, just me. He paused, his voice dropping. And because I can't stop thinking about you, Lena. That night we met. It was the first time in years I felt alive. Her breath caught, the sincerity in his words tugging at her heart. But doubt lingered. Ethan, this isn't just about you lying. People like you. Your world is different. Money, power, and attention are not part of my life. And honestly, I'm not sure I can handle the scrutiny that comes with it. She hesitated, her voice softening. I've had to fight to be seen as more than a stereotype my whole life. Being with someone like you, people will talk, judge, and assume things about me, about us. Ethan nodded, his expression somber. I know, and I hate that my world might put you in that position, but I swear, Lena, I'd do everything to shield you from that. I don't want you to change for me or my life. I want a chance to know you, and for you to know me. The break room's fluorescent hum filled the silence as Lena processed his words. Her parents' lessons echoed in her mind. Trust earned through actions, not promises. Yet, as he stood before her without pretense, Ethan's vulnerability stirred something profound. She thought of the orchids, how he'd remembered her favorite flower, a small gesture that felt personal, not performative. My students are waiting, she said finally, her tone softer but firm. I can't do this right now. I understand, Ethan said, his shoulders relaxing slightly, as if her willingness to listen was enough for now. But can I ask one thing? Will you have dinner with me tomorrow? Just dinner, somewhere quiet. Let me show you I'm serious about this, about us. Lena hesitated, her heart torn between caution and the pull of their connection. His eyes, raw with hope, reminded her of the man who danced with her under the cafe's jazz, not the billionaire in the headlines. Against her better judgment, she nodded. One dinner. But no more secrets, Ethan. I mean it. Relief washed over his face, a small smile breaking through. No more secrets. I'll pick you up at 7. Thank you, Lena. As she turned to leave, he called after her. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Truly. Back in the classroom, Lena resumed her lesson, but her mind lingered on Ethan's words. Carla noticed her distraction and grinned. He seems nice, Ms. Lena. Troubled, but nice. Lena smiled faintly, unsure if nice was enough. As she guided her students through their reading, she wondered if she was making a mistake by giving them another chance. But something in Ethan's eyes, a vulnerability she hadn't expected, made her want to believe he could be the man she'd glimpsed that first night. She'd hold him to his promise for now. No more secrets, only truth. Lena Washington stood outside her South Side apartment, the evening breeze tugging at her scarf, as she second-guessed her decision to give Ethan Caldwell another chance. After his heartfelt apology at the community center, she agreed to one more dinner, but doubts lingered. Could she trust a man who'd hidden his identity as a billionaire CEO? More than that, could she, a kindergarten teacher who cherished her quiet life, fit into his world of wealth and scrutiny? Her parents' bookstore, a cornerstone of her grounded existence, had taught her to value authenticity over flash. Yet, Ethan's vulnerability last night, his raw confession about wanting to be seen for himself, had stirred something in her, a hope she couldn't quite shake. A black SUV pulled up, not the flashy sports car she'd half expected. Ethan stepped out, dressed in a simple navy sweater and jeans, his green eyes bright with nervous anticipation. He opened the passenger door, a shy smile breaking through. "Thanks for doing this, Lena. I know I don't deserve it. Don't make me regret it," she replied, her tone teasing but firm as she slid into the seat. His chuckle eased the tension, and as they drove, she noticed he avoided the glittering downtown skyline, heading instead toward a quiet suburban neighborhood on Chicago's outskirts. The houses were modest, with tidy lawns and porch lights glowing warmly, nothing like the penthouses or mansions she'd seen in articles about Ethan Caldwell. "Where are we going?" Lena asked, her curiosity piqued. "My home," Ethan said, glancing at her. "Not the one everyone thinks I live in. The penthouse in the magazines. This is where I live." Lena raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "You, a billionaire, live in the suburbs? I'm supposed to believe that?" He grinned, undeterred. "Come inside and see for yourself." They pulled up to a charming two-story house with a well-kept garden, its brick facade unassuming but inviting. Lena braced for opulence as Ethan unlocked the door, but the interior surprised her. The living room was cozy, with a worn leather couch, a bookshelf stuffed with novels, and framed photos on the walls, not of corporate triumphs, but of a young Ethan with a woman whose smile mirrored his. The air smelled faintly of cedar and fresh herbs, a far cry from the sterile luxury she'd imagined. "This is normal?" Lena said, her skepticism softening as she ran her fingers over a stack of cookbooks on a side table. "You live here?" "5 years now," Ethan replied, leading her to the kitchen. "After my father died, I took over the company, but I needed a place that was mine, not his legacy." He pulled ingredients from the refrigerator, tomatoes, basil, and fresh pasta. "I hope you like Italian. I make a decent spaghetti aglio e olio." Lena's eyes widened. "You cook? Like cook?" He laughed, tying an apron around his waist with practiced ease. "Another thing most people don't know about me. My mother taught me before she passed. It's one of the few memories I have of her." His voice softened, and Lena saw a flicker of the boy he'd been, unguarded and honest. She hesitated, then rolled up her sleeves. "Can I help? I'm no chef, but I can chop." Ethan handed her a cutting board and a pile of garlic, their hands brushing briefly, sending a spark through her. As they worked side by side, the kitchen filled with the sizzle of olive oil and the rhythm of their banter. Lena teased him about his meticulous knife skills, and he countered with a story of burning his first attempt at sauce, the memory making them both laugh until tears pricked their eyes. Lena admitted, You're not what I expected, tossing chopped parsley into a bowl. I thought you'd take me to some fancy restaurant to impress me. Ethan paused, his knife still over a clove of garlic. I don't want to impress you with money, Lena. I want you to know me, the real me, not the CEO. He met her gaze, his eyes earnest. I messed up by lying, and I'll never do that again. This is who I am when the world isn't watching. Lena's heart softened, but questions lingered. Your world, though, it's not just you. It's headlines, paparazzi, and people judging. I'm a private person, Ethan, and honestly, I've spent my life proving I'm more than what people assume about me. She paused, her voice quieter. Being with you means eyes on us, on me. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. Ethan set down his knife, his expression serious. I know, and I hate that my life might pull you into that spotlight. But I promise, I'll do everything to protect your privacy, to make this about us, not the world. He gestured around the kitchen. This is what I want. Moments like this, with you, not galas or boardrooms. Lena studied him, the sincerity in his voice echoing the man who'd listened so intently on their first night. As they sat to eat, the pasta perfectly al dente, the tension between them eased. Ethan shared stories of his mother's love for art and how she'd taught him to find joy in small things like cooking. Lena opened up about her parents' bookstore, the community it fostered, and her pride in carrying that legacy through her teaching. This feels real, she said softly, twirling her fork. But your life isn't just this house, Ethan. It's power, pressure, and expectations. Can we make this work when our worlds are so different? He reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers, waiting for permission. She nodded, and his fingers closed gently around hers, warm and steady. I don't know how it'll work, Lena, but I want to try. With you, I can be more than my father's son, more than a name. I want to build something real, together. Lena's breath caught, the weight of his words settling over her. The connection they'd shared at the cafe, fractured by his lie, was rebuilding in this quiet kitchen. But doubt lingered. Could she trust this feeling, or would his world overwhelm hers? As they cleared the dishes, their laughter filling the space, Lena felt a cautious hope. Maybe, just maybe, the man before her was worth the risk. Outside, the night was still, the suburban street a world away from Chicago's bustle. Lena glanced at Ethan, his sleeves rolled up, a smudge of flour on his cheek. He was no longer the mysterious James or the untouchable CEO. He was just Ethan. For now, that was enough to make her want to stay. Lena Washington stood at the edge of her kindergarten classroom, arranging crayons for the day's art project, when a sharp buzz from her phone broke her focus. The past week with Ethan Caldwell had been a quiet reprieve. Dinners at his suburban home, laughter over shared stories, a tentative trust rebuilding after his deception. But the notification on her screen shattered that calm. A news alert from Chicago Pulse with the headline, "Billionaire Ethan Caldwell's secret romance with local teacher." Her stomach dropped as she opened the article, revealing grainy photos of her and Ethan, walking hand in hand in a park, laughing outside a movie theater, even a shot through his kitchen window as they cooked together. The words, "ordinary schoolteacher" and Caldwell's latest conquest stung like a slap, painting her as a curiosity in his glittering world. Lena's hands trembled as she scrolled, her classroom's cheerful chaos fading into the background. The article speculated about her motives, hinting she'd snagged a billionaire with her small-town charm. The comments were worse, some praising her as a Cinderella story, others sneering that she was out of her depth, with veiled assumptions about her worthiness. Lena's throat tightened. She'd spent her life proving she was more than stereotypes, building a career rooted in her parents' bookstore legacy of community and resilience. Now, her private life was public fodder, her identity reduced to a headline. At Lincoln Elementary, the whispers started by mid-morning. Parents picking up their kids cast sidelong glances, some snapping photos as Lena guided her students to the playground. A mother, usually friendly, asked pointedly, "Is it true you're dating that CEO? We want to ensure the school's focus stays on the kids." Lena forced a smile, assuring her nothing had changed, but the judgment lingered. By lunch, her principal called her into the office, his tone diplomatic but firm. "Lena, you're an asset here, but this media attention, we need to maintain our reputation. Can you keep this under control?" "I'm trying," Lena said, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest. "I didn't ask for this." She left the meeting, her resolve shaken. Teaching was her sanctuary, where she shaped young minds, but now it felt invaded, her privacy stripped away. Her phone buzzed again. There was a text from Ethan. "Just saw the article. I'm so sorry, Lena. Can we talk? I'll pick you up after school." She stared at the message, torn between anger and the comfort of his concern. Tara, her best friend, slipped into the teacher's lounge during the break, her eyes wide as she waved her phone. "Lena, have you seen this? You're trending online. Billionaire's teacher girlfriend is all over social media." Lena groaned, sinking into a chair. "I feel like I'm on display, Tara. They're acting like I'm some gold digger who tricked him. I just wanted an expected date." She paused, her voice softening. "But with Ethan, it's never normal." Tara sat beside her, her expression sympathetic. "It's a lot, I know. But how you talk about him, he's not just some rich guy to you. Maybe this is worth fighting for. Media and all." She hesitated, then added, "Have you talked to him about how this feels? The scrutiny, the assumptions?" "Not yet," Lena admitted. "I'm scared it'll change things. I like who we are when it's just us. But his world, it's overwhelming." She thought of her parents, who'd faced gossip when they opened their bookstore, labeled as dreamers who'd never succeed. Their strength inspired her, but this felt different. Her personal life and identity were dissected for public consumption. After school, Lena slipped out a side entrance to avoid a small cluster of photographers at the main gate. Ethan's black SUV was waiting, and she climbed in, grateful for the tinted windows. His face was etched with worry, his usual confidence replaced by guilt. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low. "Not really," Lena said, her tone sharper than intended. "Parents are whispering. My principal's worried about the school's image, and my mom's getting calls from relatives asking why I'm in the tabloids. I didn't sign up for this, Ethan." "I know," he said, gripping the steering wheel. "I'm so sorry, Lena. This isn't what I wanted for you. I think someone leaked those photos deliberately. Probably Marcus Tate, a rival who's been gunning for my company's tech merger. He's trying to distract me, to hurt us." His jaw tightened, a flicker of anger in his green eyes. "I've got my security team tracing the source." Lena's brows furrowed. "You think this is about your business? Those photos were of us, Ethan. My life's being torn apart because of who you are." Her voice trembled, the weight of the day spilling over. "I'm a private person. I chose teaching because it's real, not because I want to be a headline." Ethan reached for her hand, his touch tentative. "I hate that this is happening. I'll do everything to protect you, Lena. Better security, legal action, whatever it takes. But I need you to know this isn't just about my world. It's about us, what we're building. I'll fight for that if you will." Lena looked at their joined hands, his warmth grounding her. She thought of her parents' bookstore, where community triumphed over judgment. Ethan's sincerity, the way he'd opened his home to her, felt like a promise of something real. But the media storm was a reminder of the cost of loving him. "I want to believe we can do this," she said softly. "But I need to know what I'm signing up for. No more surprises." "No more surprises," Ethan vowed, his eyes locked on hers. "Let's get out of here. Somewhere quiet. We'll figure this out together." He drove them to a secluded lakeside park, its calm waters a stark contrast to the chaos of the day. As they walked along the shore, Lena felt a flicker of hope. The world might be watching, but in this moment, it was just them. Two people navigating a love that was as fragile as it was fierce. She didn't have all the answers, but with Ethan by her side, she was ready to face the storm, one step at a time. Lena Washington sat at her kitchen table, grating papers under a lamp's soft glow, the media storm's chaos still echoing in her mind. The past few days had been a whirlwind. Paparazzi photos of her and Ethan Caldwell splashed across headlines, parents whispering at school, her privacy unraveling. Yet, Ethan's promise to face it together, made by the lakeside park, had steadied her. Like cooking in his suburban kitchen, their quiet moments felt like a lifeline, a reminder of the man behind the billionaire facade. But as she scribbled feedback on a student's drawing, a sharp knock at her apartment door jolted her from her thoughts. Assuming it was Ethan, she opened it without checking, only to freeze at the sight of a sharply dressed stranger with a cold smile. "Ms. Washington," the man said, his voice smooth but calculated. "I'm Marcus Tate. May I come in? We have a mutual acquaintance to discuss." His tailored suit and slick demeanor screamed wealth, but his eyes held a predatory glint that set Lena on edge. Her grip tightened on the doorframe, Ethan's warning about his rival flashing in her mind. "I don't think we have anything to talk about, Mr. Tate," she said, her tone firm. Tate's smile didn't waver. "It concerns Ethan Caldwell's future. And yours. 5 minutes." Against her better judgment, Lena stepped aside, keeping her phone in hand, ready to call for help. Tate entered, his gaze sweeping her modest apartment with barely concealed disdain. "I admire your directness," he said, sitting uninvited on her couch. "So I'll be blunt. Ethan's facing challenges at Caldwell Enterprises. The board's questioning his focus, especially with distractions." His eyes flicked to her, the word laced with implication. Lena's jaw tightened, her pride flaring. "If you mean me, say it, and get to the point." Tate chuckled, unfazed. "Very well. Ethan's leadership is under scrutiny because of old business dealings, issues his father left behind. Your relationship isn't helping." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a check and sliding it across her coffee table. $1 million. More than enough to ease your transition if you walk away from him. Lena stared at the check, her blood boiling. The amount was staggering, enough to fund her school's art program for years, but the audacity of his offer ignited her defiance. "Can you buy me?" she said, her voice low and steady. "I'm not for sale, and neither is what I have with Ethan. Get out." Tate's smile faltered, a cold edge creeping into his expression. "Be reasonable, Ms. Washington. Ethan's world is cutthroat. You're a liability he'll resent when his company crumbles. A teacher can't survive in his orbit." His words stung, echoing her fears about their mismatched lives, but her resolve, rooted in her parents' strength against naysayers, held firm. "Get out," Lena repeated, louder, pointing to the door. "Take your money and leave, or I'm calling the police." Tate stood, tucking the check back into his pocket. "You're making a mistake. When Ethan's empire falls, he'll blame you." He left, the door clicking shut behind him, leaving Lena's heart pounding. She grabbed her phone, her hands shaking as she dialed Ethan. "Lena, "What's wrong?" he answered, his voice tense and concerned. "Marcus Tate was just here," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "He offered me $1 million to leave you. Your company said it's in trouble because of your father's deals." There was a long pause, then Ethan's voice, tight with fury. "I'm coming over. Lock your doors and don't let anyone else in." 20 minutes later, he was at her apartment, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "Are you okay? Did he threaten you?" "No, just tried to bribe me," Lena said, leading him to the couch. "What's going on, Ethan? He mentioned problems with your father's business and the board questioning you." Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's worse than I thought. Tate's been pushing for a partnership with Caldwell Enterprises, but I've refused. He wants to gut the company, not build it. Now he's escalated things. The board called an emergency meeting today. They've got documents alleging my father's most significant acquisition, which built our tech empire, was fraudulent. They threatened to vote me out as CEO if I can't disprove it by next week." Lena's eyes widened. "Fraudulent? That's serious. And you think Tate's behind it?" "I know he is," Ethan said, his jaw set. "The timing's too perfect. First, the photos, but now this. He's trying to destabilize me, using our relationship to make me look distracted." His gaze softened, guilt flickering. "I'm so sorry you're caught in this, Lena. You don't deserve it." Lena took his hand, her earlier anger replaced by determination. "This isn't just about you, Ethan. He came to my home, tried to buy me. I'm not letting him win." Her voice was fierce, echoing the strength she'd learned from her parents, who'd faced down skeptics to keep their bookstore alive. "What can I do to help?" Ethan looked at her, surprise and gratitude in his eyes. "You still want to be part of this mess?" "I want to be part of you," she said. "Your fight is mine now." The words felt like a vow, binding them closer despite the storm. Ethan pulled her into his arms, overwhelmed by her loyalty. "I don't deserve you," he murmured. "Probably not," Lena teased, a small smile breaking through. "But you're stuck with me." As they held each other, the weight of Tate's scheme loomed, but so did their resolve. Lena knew the road ahead would test them, her privacy, their trust, the clash of their worlds. But in Ethan's embrace, she felt ready to face it. Outside, the city hummed, oblivious to the battle brewing that would challenge Ethan's empire and the love they were fighting to protect. Lena Washington spread a pile of yellow documents across Ethan Caldwell's dining room table, the soft glow of a pendant light casting shadows over the faded ink. It was late, the Chicago skyline twinkling beyond the windows of his suburban home, but sleep was a distant thought. Marcus Tate's scheme to oust Ethan as CEO of Caldwell Enterprises had escalated, with forged documents alleging fraud in the company's founding acquisition, threatening Ethan's legacy. The board's ultimatum hung over them: disprove the allegations within a week or lose everything. Lena, fueled by takeout coffee and a resolve forged by Tate's audacious bribe attempt, worked beside Ethan, their shared determination a quiet strength against the ticking clock. "Ethan said these are from your father's early files," rubbing his eyes as he sorted through papers, contracts, memos, anything from the Milton acquisition in the 90s. "We can bury Tate's lies if we can prove it was legitimate." His voice was steady, but his tense shoulders showed the strain of sleepless nights. Lena's presence, her unwavering support after Tate visits her apartment, anchored him. Her defiance, rejecting $1 million bribe, had solidified their partnership, making this fight as much hers as his. Lena picked up a letter, its edges brittle with age. "This is from your father to Margaret Milton, dated a month before the acquisition." She scanned the handwritten note, her brow furrowing. "It's a thank you for a dinner party, mentioning a fishing trip they took together. Sounds friendly, not hostile." She handed it to Ethan, her fingers brushing his, a fleeting warmth in the tense moment. He read it, his expression softening. Margaret was Harold Milton's wife. My father always said the acquisition wasn't a takeover, that Harold wanted it. But this doesn't prove anything concrete. He sighed, frustration creeping in. My father kept personal keepsakes in a safe at our family estate. I haven't been there since he died. It's a long shot, but there might be something. Then let's go, Lena said, her voice decisive. If there's a chance, we take it. Her determination, rooted in the resilience she'd learned from her parents' bookstore, a beacon of community against all odds, pushed her forward. She wasn't just fighting for Ethan's company. She was fighting for their future, for the trust they'd rebuilt. An hour later, they pulled up to the Caldwell family estate, a sprawling mansion that loomed against the night sky, its marble columns and manicured gardens a stark contrast to Ethan's cozy home. I grew up here, he said as they stepped inside, his voice low. But it never felt like mine. Too cold, too much like my father's ambition. Lena squeezed his hand, sensing the weight of memories he carried. They moved to Edward Caldwell's study, a room frozen in time. Bookshelves lined with leather-bound volumes, a massive desk dominating the space, family photos in silver frames. Ethan approached a painting of a lighthouse, swinging it aside to reveal a wall safe. My father's one sentimental touch, he said, spinning the dial with his birthday as the combination. The safe clicked open, revealing stacks of documents, a jewelry box, and several photo albums. Lena pulled out an album labeled Personal, 1990s, her fingers careful with the fragile pages. This would be around the Milton acquisition. They flipped through photos, formal events, family vacations, until they landed on a series of images from a fishing trip. Edward Caldwell and Harold Milton stood side by side, grinning with their catches, their camaraderie evident. They were friends, Lena noted, pointing to a photo where the men pored over papers at a cabin table. What's that in the background? Ethan leaned closer, squinting. Looks like architectural drawings. He flipped to the next photo, clearer now. See the letterhead? Milton Caldwell Research Center. They were planning a joint venture before the acquisition. His voice quickened with hope. This suggests they were partners, not rivals. Lena's mind raced. If they were working together, the acquisition wasn't hostile. We need more. She returned to the safe, digging deeper, and pulled out a sealed envelope marked Milton Agreement, Personal Copy. Ethan opened it, his hands trembling, as he unfolded a handwritten contract signed by both men. This is it, he breathed, reading quickly. Harold Milton had cancer and knew he was dying. He approached my father to acquire his company, to protect its legacy, rather than let competitors dismantle it. They agreed to keep the Milton name on key divisions and continue their joint research. Lena's eyes lit up. This proves the acquisition was legitimate. Tate's documents are forgeries. She paused, her brow furrowing. But we still need to prove he's behind this. He's too careful to leave a trail. Ethan nodded, his jaw set. We need a trap, something to make him admit it. Lena's gaze sharpened, an idea sparking. What if we make him think he's won? Get someone he trusts to draw him out, record him confessing. He's arrogant enough to brag if he thinks you're done. Ethan looked at her, admiration mingling with gratitude. That's brilliant, Lena. Clara Voss, a board member, has been wavering under Tate's pressure. If we convince her to help, we could catch him. He took her hand, his touch grounding. I couldn't do this without you. You know that, right? Lena smiled, her resolve unwavering. We're a team now, Ethan. Tate messed with both of us. Her thoughts drifted to her parents, who'd faced skeptics to build their bookstore, their strength fueling her now. As they packed the documents and photos, the mansion's cold grandeur faded, replaced by the warmth of their shared purpose. The clock was ticking, but with the evidence in hand and Lena's plan in motion, They were ready to fight back. The night was still outside, but their determination burned bright inside, a beacon against Tate's schemes. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Ethan Caldwell's suburban home, casting stripes across the dining room table where Lena Washington and Ethan pored over their plan. The handwritten Milton agreement and photos from the Caldwell family safe lay before them, proof that Ethan's father's acquisition was legitimate. But Marcus Tate's forged documents and leaked photos still threatened Ethan's position as CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, with the board's vote looming in 2 days. Lena's idea to trap Tate, catching him admitting his schemes, had sparked hope, but the stakes were high. Ethan could lose his company if they failed, and their relationship would remain a target. Ethan looked at Lena, her focused expression grounding him. He said, "Clara Voss is our key," tapping a photo of the board member, a stern woman with a reputation for loyalty but recent doubts about Ethan's leadership. She's been swayed by Tate's promises, but she still cares about the company. If we convince her to help, we can get Tate on record. Lena nodded, her fingers tracing the edge of the Milton agreement. Tate's arrogant. He'll talk if he thinks he's won. We need Clara to play along. Her voice was steady, her resolve forged by her parents' example, building their bookstore against skepticism, never backing down. Tate's bribe attempt had made this personal, and she was determined to protect what she and Ethan were building. They drove to Caldwell Enterprises, the sleek skyscraper starkly contrasting with Ethan's modest home. In a quiet conference room, Clara Voss sat waiting, her posture rigid. "This is irregular, Ethan," she said, her eyes flicking to Lena. "Ms. Washington has no place in a board matter." "She does," Ethan replied, his tone calm but firm. "Thanks to Lena, we've found proof that the Milton acquisition was legitimate." He slid copies of the agreement and photos across the table. "Harold Milton and my father planned it together. Tate's documents are forgeries, and he's behind the leaks about our relationship and the tech merger." Clara examined the papers, her expression unreadable. "This is compelling, but it doesn't explain the leaks or your distractions." Her gaze lingered on Lena, a hint of skepticism in her voice. Lena met her eyes, unfazed. "Tate tried to bribe me to leave Ethan, offering me $1 million to break us up. He admitted he's using our relationship to undermine him. I'm here because I care about Ethan, and won't let Tate destroy what his father built." Her words, rooted in the strength she'd learned from her community, carried a quiet force. Ethan leaned forward. "We need your help, Clara. Meet with Tate. Tell him I'm finished, that the board's ready to vote me out because I've been too focused on Lena to fight back. Get him to admit he orchestrated the leaks and forgeries. We'll record it." Clara's brow furrowed. "You're asking me to deceive a powerful man. Why should I trust you over him?" "Because Tate doesn't care about Caldwell Enterprises," Ethan said, his voice steady. "He wants to strip it for parts, fire half the workforce, and absorb what's left." He told Lena as much. "You've been with this company for 20 years, Clara. Please help us save it." Clara hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Tate approached me with those documents, claiming he was protecting the company. I believed him." She paused, her eyes meeting Ethan's. "If he's lying, I'll help you prove it. What do you need?" "Set up a meeting today," Lena said, her voice clear. "Wear a recording device. Get him to talk about the forgeries and the leaks. We'll handle the rest." Her quick thinking, honed by years of managing chaotic classrooms, impressed Ethan, who squeezed her hand under the table. By late afternoon, Clara sat in a private booth at an upscale restaurant, a discreet recording device tucked into her blazer. Tate arrived, his slick confidence filling the space as he settled across from her. "James, good to see you," he said, his smile predatory. "Do you have good news?" Clara nodded, her expression nervous but convincing. "The board meets tomorrow. Ethan's out. They're convinced he's too distracted by his relationship to lead. We'll announce a partnership with Tate Enterprises after." Tate signaled for champagne, his eyes gleaming. Perfect. Ethan was easier to topple than expected. A few photos, some well-timed leaks, and he's unraveling. Clara leaned forward, her voice careful. The board's concerned about those leaks. And regarding the Milton documents, how do we know they're authentic? Tate waved a hand dismissively. They're convincing enough. No one will dig into ancient history once Ethan's gone and we've merged. The photos of him and that teacher were icing. His weakness lay bare. You orchestrated all of it? Clara pressed, her hand brushing the recorder. The leaks, the documents, the media? Of course, Tate said, his smile cold. Ethan was untouchable until I found his soft spot. His little romance was collateral damage. As for the employees, we'll keep 40%, sell the rest. Business is business. Clara nodded, her face neutral. And my role? Tate assured her it would be a consulting contract, as promised for your cooperation. You mean betraying Ethan? Clara clarified, her tone sharp. Tate shrugged. Call it winning. Before he could say more, Ethan stepped out from a nearby alcove, Lena and 2 police officers behind him. Tate froze, his champagne glass clattering to the table. What is this? Tate demanded, his voice rising. Clara placed the recorder on the table. Evidence. She turned to the officers. You'll find this helpful. One officer stepped forward. Mr. Tate, please come with us. We have questions about corporate espionage, forgery, and attempted bribery. Tate's face paled as they led him away. His smug confidence shattered. Ethan turned to Clara, gratitude in his eyes. Thank you for doing the right thing. You saved the company. Clara nodded, her expression grim. Tate would have destroyed everything your father built. I'll ensure the board knows the truth. As Clara left, Lena took Ethan's hand, her touch a steady anchor. It's almost over, she said, her voice soft but firm. Almost, Ethan replied, his eyes locked on hers. One more step. The restaurant's hum faded, leaving only their shared resolve. Tate's schemes were unraveling, but the board meeting loomed, with it, the chance to secure their future, Ethan's legacy, and the love they'd fought for. The boardroom at Caldwell Enterprises buzzed with tension, its sleek glass walls reflecting the Chicago skyline as board members and executives filled the seats. Ethan Caldwell stood at the head of the polished table, his green eyes steady despite the moment's wait. The evidence he and Lena Washington had uncovered, the handwritten Milton agreement, and photos proving his father's legitimate acquisition, lay neatly stacked before him. Marcus Tate's arrest the previous night for corporate espionage, forgery, and bribery had sent shockwaves through the company, but today's meeting would determine Ethan's fate as CEO. Lena sat quietly in the back, her presence a grounding force. Her strength, from rejecting Tate's bribe to devising the trap that exposed him, had been crucial, and Ethan had insisted she be there to witness the resolution. Clara Voss, the board member who'd helped record Tate's confession, stood to address the room. Thank you for coming on short notice, she said, her voice firm. Recent events have raised serious concerns about Ethan's leadership and the Milton acquisition. We're here to address those and chart the company's future. Ethan stepped forward, his posture confident but not arrogant. Before we discuss allegations, I have news. Marcus Tate was arrested last night for orchestrating a campaign to discredit me and Caldwell Enterprises. He leaked photos of my personal life and fabricated documents claiming my father's acquisition of Milton Technologies was fraudulent. Murmurs rippled through the room as he distributed copies of the handwritten agreement and photos from the fishing trip, showing his father and Harold Milton as partners. These proved the acquisition was legitimate, initiated by Milton to protect his company's legacy. Board members reviewed the documents, their expressions shifting from skepticism to relief. Clara nodded, her approval clear. This corroborates what we heard on Tate's recording. He admitted to the forgeries and leaks, aiming to destabilize Ethan for his gain. A senior board member, Richard Holt, frowned. The evidence is compelling, but the leaks and your personal distractions have cost us credibility. The tech merger is at risk. Why should we trust your focus in the future? Ethan met Holt's gaze, unflinching. Because I've secured the merger. I finalized terms with our West Coast partners this morning, ensuring Caldwell Enterprises leads the tech market. Gasps echoed, and Lena's lips curved into a proud smile from the back. But you're right about focus, Ethan continued. Recent events have shown me I can't carry this company alone. That's why I'm proposing a restructuring. I've asked Nora Thompson, my assistant, to become the Chief Operating Officer for 5 years. Her expertise will ensure day-to-day operations thrive, freeing me to focus on strategic vision. Nora, seated near Clara, straightened, her quiet competence evident. She'd managed crises behind the scenes, from Tokyo mergers to Tate's sabotage, and Ethan's trust in her was unwavering. The board exchanged glances, impressed by the move. Clara stood again. I move that we accept Ethan's proposals and reaffirm our confidence in his leadership. His handling of this crisis proves his commitment. The vote was unanimous, a wave of relief washing over the room. Board members approached Ethan, offering handshakes and congratulations. As the crowd thinned, Lena joined him, her presence a quiet strength. How does it feel? She asked, her voice soft. Like I can breathe again, Ethan admitted, taking her hand. But it's more than saving the company. You made this possible, Lena. You saw through Tate and pushed me to fight smarter. I couldn't have done it without you. Lena smiled, her eyes warm but resolute. We're a team, Ethan. But this media mess, it's not over for me. Parents are still whispering at school, and those headlines keep painting me as your ordinary girlfriend. I need to take control of my story. Ethan nodded, understanding her need for agency. What do you want to do? Lena said, I'm giving one interview. Her tone is firm. A local outlet, someone fair. I'll tell my side about teaching, my family's bookstore, and who I am. Not to feed the frenzy, but to set boundaries. They don't get to define me. Ethan squeezed her hand, admiration in his eyes. You're incredible. I'll support whatever you need. Security, lawyers, anything to keep them at bay. Later that week, Lena sat with a reporter from Chicago Community Press, a small outlet known for its integrity. In a quiet cafe, she spoke about her love for teaching, the community her parents built through their bookstore, and her pride in standing by Ethan through Tate's schemes. I'm not a headline, she said, her voice steady. I'm a teacher, a daughter, a woman who values truth. Ethan and I are building something real, and no one's rumors will change that. The interview, published online, shifted the narrative, framing Lena as a resilient partner, not a tabloid trope. Parents at school stopped whispering, and her principal sent a supportive email, affirming her value to Lincoln Elementary. As Lena and Ethan walked through his garden that evening, the weight of the past weeks felt lighter. I'm proud of you, Ethan said, his arm around her. You took their story and made it yours. Lena leaned into him, the scent of blooming jasmine around them. I had to. I learned from my parents. When the world tries to box you in, you carve your own space. She looked up, her eyes meeting his. We're carving ours now, aren't we? Together, Ethan promised, his voice thick with emotion. The corporate storm was over, but their journey was beginning, built on trust, truth, and a love strong enough to weather any spotlight. The garden of Ethan Caldwell's suburban Chicago home glowed under a canopy of twinkling lights, transformed into a haven of warmth and celebration. White tents dotted the lawn, their soft fabric billowing in the evening breeze, while tables adorned with sunflowers, Lena Washington's favorite, sparkled with candlelight. Unlike the lavish galas Ethan had attended as CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, this gathering was intimate, with only 60 guests, family, close friends, and a few trusted colleagues. Lena's kindergarten students had crafted colorful paper hearts, hung alongside elegant floral arrangements, a testament to the couple's commitment to authenticity. Today was their wedding day, 6 months after their fateful meeting at La Vita Cafe, where a mistaken seat had sparked a love that weathered deception, corporate schemes, and media storms. In the main bedroom, Lena stood before a full-length mirror, smoothing the folds of her ivory dress. Simple yet elegant, with delicate lace sleeves and a flowing train, it was perfectly her, not the designer gown the world might expect of a billionaire's bride. Tara, her best friend, adjusted the veil, her eyes misty. "You look like a dream, Lena." "Nervous?" "Not even a little," Lena replied, her smile radiant. "This is wild, considering a news van is parked at the end of the street." The media frenzy that followed Marcus Tate's arrest for corporate espionage had only intensified. Their love story, teacher and tycoon, capturing public imagination. Lena's interview with Chicago Community Press had shifted the narrative, framing her as a woman of strength, not a tabloid trope. However, reporters still lingered, hungry for a glimpse of their wedding. Tara laughed, pinning a stray curl. "Let them try. Ethan's security team's got this place locked down. This day is yours." She stepped back, admiring her work. "You sure you're ready to be Mrs. Caldwell?" Lena's heart swelled. "I'm ready to be Ethan's partner. The name's just a bonus." Her thoughts drifted to their journey. The hurt of Ethan's deception, the fight against Tate's schemes, the quiet nights in his kitchen where they'd built trust. Her parents' bookstore, a beacon of community and resilience, had taught her to value truth above all. She'd found it with Ethan, not just in his words, but in his actions. A knock at the door announced her father, Marcus, his eyes glistening with pride. "It's time, sweetheart," he said, offering his arm. Lena took it, her heart steady as they stepped into the garden. Guests turned, their faces alight with joy. Her mother, Grace, dabbed her eyes beside Ethan's assistant-turned-COO, Nora, who'd become a friend through their shared victory. Lena's students, seated in the front row, waved their paper hearts, giggling. Under a sunflower-draped arch, Ethan waited, his navy suit tailored but understated, his green eyes locked on her. His breath caught as she approached, her smile brighter than any jewel. He took her hands, his voice unsteady as he whispered, "You're more beautiful than the night you sat at my table by mistake." "Best mistake I ever made," Lena whispered back, her eyes twinkling. Their guests chuckled softly, the warmth of the moment enveloping them. The officiant, a family friend, began, but Lena and Ethan barely heard, lost in each other. Their vows were simple, heartfelt. Ethan promised always to be honest, share his joys and burdens, and cherish Lena not for his wealth, but for the life they'd build. "He said you saw me when I was hiding," his voice thick. "You made me want to be more than my name. I'll spend my life proving I'm worthy of you." Lena's eyes shimmered as she spoke. "I promise to see you, Ethan, the real you, not the headlines or the empire. To stand by you through every challenge and fill our home with laughter and sunflowers." Her voice wavered, but her smile held. "You're my partner, my home, and I love you for who you are." As they exchanged rings, Ethan's eyes glistened, the powerful CEO unafraid to show his heart. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant declared. "You may kiss the bride." Their tender and fierce kiss drew cheers, but for Lena and Ethan, the world narrowed to just them, a moment of perfect connection, echoing their first night. The celebration unfolded with joyful chaos. Lena's students performed a song they'd practiced, their voices wobbly but earnest, bringing laughter and applause. Tara's homemade cake, a towering creation of lemon and lavender, was a hit, while Lena's parents mingled with Ethan's colleagues, their warmth bridging worlds. Under the stars, Lena and Ethan danced, her head resting against his chest, his arms a safe harbor. "Happy?" Ethan asked, his voice low as they swayed. "Completely," Lena said, tilting her head to meet his gaze. "Though I still can't believe I'm Mrs. Caldwell. My students will probably call me Ms. Washington forever." Ethan chuckled. "And you'll always be Lena to me, the woman who saw me when no one else did." His expression grew serious. "I've been thinking about that first night. If you hadn't sat at my table, if I'd told you I wasn't James, where would we be?" Lena smiled, her fingers tracing his jaw. "We'd have found each other. Some things are meant to be." She paused, her voice softening. "I knew it was real when you showed me your home. Not the mansion, but this place, where you're just Ethan. That's when I saw your heart." "And I'll always show it to you," Ethan promised, kissing her gently. From the tent, Tara called them for the cake cutting, and they rejoined their guests, hand in hand. As confetti flew and cameras flashed from a distance, kept at bay by security, Lena and Ethan shared a private smile. Their story wasn't a fairy tale of a billionaire sweeping someone off their feet. It was a real-life romance, born of a chance mistake, forged through trials, and built on truth, trust, and the courage to be seen. As they cut the cake, laughter ringing around them, they knew their journey, from strangers to soulmates, was beginning, a love strong enough to face any future.